Hello everybody guys, this is Eugene from Oro. Today we are going to start our second part of Oro training. This one is about OroCommerce, and in the scope of this training we are going to check what kind of features we have in Oro, how to deal with them, how to work with them, and so on. But before that, let me introduce myself first. My name is Yevhen. I'm architectural advisor and project lead in Oro. I'm working in Oro for already 7 years. And today we are going to start training. And before that, just a little bit information about me. I'm also, except for the training activities, I'm also search component lead and code review lead activities. And if you want to find more about me, feel free to open these links and see who am I and what I am doing. Talking about the course, in scope of the OroCommerce training, we're going to see what kind of functional features and technical features we have in OroCommerce application. I'm going to share the best practices we have internally, how to work with OroCommerce, how to develop OroCommerce, how to customize it, what kind of things you should and should not do. And I'm also going to tell you about the common extension points in the OroCommerce and how to use them to do customizations. Talking about the training process and the schedule itself. Unlike the Oro platform training, Marcin conducted during the last 2 weeks, in scope of the OroCommerce training, we are going to see more functional topics and we are going to check less technical details. So if you have your BA, PO, marketing managers and other business people, feel free to invite them to this training. It will be mostly functional, and people without technical expertise will be able to understand almost everything we are going to discuss here. There will be a couple of exceptions. There will be 2 scopes with the technical area. And in scope of these topics, we're going to check most technical details, but most of the time we're going to discuss only functional questions and see the features we have in OroCommerce out of the box and how to work with them. If you have some questions, first you can always write them in the chat of this webinar. And we're also going to have a small Q&A session in the end of every topic where I'm going to answer all your questions. We're going to have a small breaks, usually 10 to 15 minutes between the trainings, between the topics. And after the presentation is finished, you will receive slides from this presentation on your email. And of course, here we have the link where all these videos will be uploaded later on, and I think you should receive a link to this channel too. Again, if you have some questions and for some reason neither me nor somebody else will be able to answer these questions, feel free to post your questions to the Oro Slack chat. There, somebody from Oro team will be able to answer your questions and consult you on the best way to do something or best way to customize your application to make to implement the feature you want. So let us start. And let us start from the schedule. So now we're going to see what kind of topics we're going to have during this training and how long will it be. So we're going to have training for the 9 days, 3 weeks, each 3 days every week. And the first day, actually today, we're going to have 2 topics. The first one is the storefront and websites. We're going to see how to work with the storefront, how it's configured, what kind of a configuration we have on the website levels. And the second topic, we're going to see the multiple customer entities, how to deal with them, how to configure them, what kind of the best practices we have there, and so on. Day second, so second day will be the most technical one. So this is the first day we're going to have also technical details. There we're going to check the layout engine in OroCommerce and how to deal with layout engines and how to write a code or write layout updates with layout engines and how to group them into themes and use these themes at the storefront. At the third day, we're going to check the product catalog and master catalog. Here we have different ways to deal with the structure of products in the Oro application. So first of them is the master catalog, and the second one is the web catalog. And we're going to see how to do that, what kind of the best practices we have there, what's the difference between these catalogs, which one is better in each specific case, and how to deal with these catalogs together. On the second week, on the day 4, we're going to check the pricing topic. This is a big topic because pricing is very important, especially for the OroCommerce because it's a B2B application. And we're going to see what kind of price list we have, how to build price lists, how to build price rules, how prices are associated to the customers, how deal with the multiple price lists together, how to merge them, and some other questions. At the 5th day, we're going to check promotions and discount, taxes and inventory. So this is the promotions and discount and taxes are sort of the addition to the pricing because both promotion, discount, and taxes affect the price of the products you can buy or sell. And the inventory is an additional feature you can use together with the products to tell how many products you have in your inventory, what kind of inventory status you have, what warehouses are used, and so on. At 6th day, we're going to check the storefront sales flows, and we're going to check the main 4 entities used for that. These are shopping lists, requests for quotes, quotes, and orders. We're going to see how these entities converted each into the other, what kind of information we have inside them, how line items are configured, what workflows we have associated to these entities, and how to finally convert your shopping list to the order in the multiple ways. Day 7, so here we're going to check the checkout entity. This is the second topic with lots of technical details, although I would say that this is only partial technical because there will be still lots of useful functional information about the way checkout works and checkout configured. And in scope of these topics, we're going to see what kind of checkouts OroCommerce has out of the box, how to configure these checkouts, how to switch between them, what kind of options you can use to customize checkout out of the box, how to do it from the code level, how to customize the addresses to start doing the checkout, add additional fields there, and some other customizations. During the 8th day, we are going to check payment methods and shipping methods. So this is the way customer can pay for the request or for the order and the way customer prefer it to be shipped. And again, we're going to see what kind of providers we have, both payment and shipping providers. We're going to check how to configure them. We're going to check how to set correct rules for them. So for example, one can be available only for one group of customers, another only for another group of the customers. And we're going to also see some tips and tricks about usage of payment and shipping methods. And 9th day is only for Q&A. So if you have some kind of very interesting questions to discuss, feel free to write them. And we are going to check these questions together on the 9th day. And I will be happy to answer all your questions there. So let us continue. Rather, let us start the very first topic. The very first topic is called storefront and websites, and here we are going to see what is the storefront, what is the websites, how they're connected, how they're configured, and so on. But before we are going to do that, let us start from the understanding of what is Management Console. So Management Console is basically what you have seen in scope of the Oro platform trading, is the backend part or back office. This is a place where merchants or administrators, merchants can operate their online and offline sales. It's a place where application administrator may work on the products, orders, quotes, and so on. You may have obviously multiple roles here, like commerce manager. You may have sales representatives here, and obviously you may have administrators who have the highest permissions and may pretty much do everything possible on the OroCommerce backend. Management consoles are usually available for a limited amount of people, and these are only people who have to have an access to the internal information of how application works. There are quite a lot of such information, and that is why we are really caring about security and do not recommend to grant access to a lot of people to the management console. So please be extra careful about granting permission to the management console. Make sure that you have configured your roles properly. We're going to check what are roles a little bit later. Please make sure that only these people have access there, the passwords are properly rotated, and just follow the common security best practices for the access to the internal information. Management console is fully and well protected. We have a special prefix for it. Again, we're going to check it a little bit later. And for the management console, functionality is more important than the performance. So we have all the possible functions we have for the applications. And in this case, functionality will be more important because it's maybe okay wait for administrator to about 0.3, 0.5 additional seconds to wait for the page loaded, but have all the possible features to have full access and full control of the application. Sometimes management console is referred as a backend or back office, but these are the same things, so just for you to know. Usually management console, basically the management console you have seen previously, were accessed just using the standard URL of the application. However, in case of the OroCommerce, it's not the case. You have to add a special suffix to the URL. Default one is the admin, and this is a place where you can log in. So as you can see here, we have the standard login page. You should be able to see it in the scope of the Oro platform training. And here I can just log in and see the standard Oro application. However, in this case, I have quite a lot of additional menu elements here. I have quite a lot of additional dashboards, widgets, and other features which may be useful for the OroCommerce applications. But in general, if you are seeing prefix like admin or some kind of, suffix like admin or some other suffix to the URL, in this case, you can be sure that you're entering management console. It also looks very different from the storefront. As you can see here, we have like nice and clean design, gray menu, white background, and so on. While on the storefront, on the front-end part, we can see quite a lot of UI customizations, which you do not see here. Let us continue. So now the second part, the storefront, actually this is the part where OroCommerce is different from the Oro platform application. This is a part which is added specifically for the OroCommerce. This is a place where customers can actually buy something. They can see the catalogs, they can see the prices, they can see the shopping list, they can start checkout, they can finish checkout, see the orders, and do all the stuff the customers or buyers usually do. By default, storefront is available for everybody, but we distinguish between buyers, these are users who actually logged in and have access to most of the features, and guests. By default, guests have very limited permissions, so guests may only see the catalog, but there are multiple ways how you can either grant them more rights, or vice versa. You can, for example, totally prevent access to the commerce for the storefront. For example, you can use system system configuration to do that. Storefront is partially protected. It means that there are some URLs that are protected fully. It means that only logged in users can see these URLs. And there are places, or there are URLs where everybody can see, including guests or other people who are not logged in yet. Again, unlike the management console part, in Storefront, performance is more important than the functionality. So sometimes OroCommerce may sacrifice some of the functional features in order to provide better performance or better user experience to work with some functions of the applications. Storefront is usually referred as a front end or front office or store office and so on, but in general, all these words mean the same as the front end part where customer may buy products. And let us see how it looks like. So this is the default view, this is the default theme of OroCommerce. You may see it on demo applications. If you're going to install your application from scratch, you're going to see this theme. And what we can see here we can see some kind of header where we have sign in and register links. We have the standard menu where we have multiple items. If we click on some item, we are going to see grid of products, again with the prices. And in the footer, we have additional information. Here we have additional menus which can be used to refer to other parts of the application. We're going to see in details each of these parts a little bit later. So what's the main difference between the storefront and management consoles? In the management consoles, customers have full control over the storefront. So in other words, administrator can do something, and by doing that, he can change the way application behaves at the storefront, and there they have a full access or full control over the data on the storefront too. Application administrator may configure application, he may configure the websites, he may configure the functions, the features, visual representation, content, and so on. We have quite a lot of data management here. We have entity CRUD, for example, for the products, for orders, for images, and so on. We have management for the catalogs, both master catalog and web catalog. We have reporting and many, many, many other features. On the storefront, the buyer or the customer can only buy and order items, and he has access to only a limited number of features or entities. So these are products, prices, shopping lists, RFQs, quote, orders, and a couple more, which we're going to check in scope of this training. But in general, the main idea that they have limited permissions, a limited access to the features, and the only thing which they can do, they can change the data. For example, they can add an item to the, can add a product to the shopping list, and by doing that, they're creating a new line item. That is why buyers only have data level access, and they do not have access to the, they cannot manage features and functions of the OroCommerce from the storefront. Now let us go and see how this thing built, what kind of structural changes we have, and how it's organized in general. So the main package on the code level, called OroCustomer Portal, and this is a place or a piece of code responsible for the organizing a storefront as such without commerce features. So customer portal includes only the minimum amount of code, minimum amount of bundles needed to access storefront, to have that prefix, or that, sorry, to have that suffix, to be able to log in as a customer user, to be able to see some kind of theme, and to just be able to have a storefront without OroCommerce features. The second package, the biggest package here, is a package called OroCommerce. This is a package which encapsulates all the main features from the OroCommerce. Products, prices, master catalog, web catalog, orders, everything is here in the OroCommerce package. And finally, the last package here we have here is called OroCommerce CRM. And this package is needed to join together OroCommerce and OroCRM and use these features together. So I believe you know that we have multiple applications built on the Oro platform, and one of them is OroCommerce, another one is Core CRM. And by default, OroCommerce already includes a CRM functionality out of the box, and this package, OroCommerce CRM, is responsible for the connecting them together and to make sure that can work together. Let us see that on the code level. So let me open PHP Storm and see how these features work. In general, these are names of packages, and they are just directories you can find in the vendor directory of your project. Okay. And so here we have our project, and if we'll go to the vendor directory, vendor Oro, here we'll be able to find quite a lot of packages, including the packages we have just discussed. Here we have the customer portal package, which includes several bundles, and actually a couple of each. Here we have commerce menu bundle. Here we have customer bundle. We have front-end attachment bundle, front-end bundle, stylable bundle, and website bundle. So these bundles are needed to actually have a storefront features and to provide customability to log in and actually be able to do something with their profile, with their addresses, but do not have access to the commerce features. Then the commerce package has quite a lot of bundles, as you can see here. Here we have bundles for the checkout. Here we have bundles for the inventory, for the order, for the product, for the shopping list. We have bundle for the visibility. We have bundle for the web catalogs. So these are the main features we have in OroCommerce, and these are the features we're going to concentrate during this training. And finally, we have Commerce CRM. This is a place where we have only one bundle for demo data, but we have a couple of bridges. In fact, we have 5 bridges, and these bridges connect together Oro CRM and OroCommerce functionality to make them work together as one application. You may also see some other packages here. For example, if you're using enterprise versions, you should be able to see a package like Commerce Enterprise, like Platform Enterprise, and some other packages. And this package is part of the Enterprise Edition, but in general, the main point is the same. So they're extending appropriate part of the default application and adding some new features. But most of the time, you will need either commerce or the customer portal package when you are going to work on the OroCommerce application. And let us start from the storefront routing. So here's a place where we're going to check how URLs are generated, how we are organizing the routing on the application level, what kind of features and options we have, and how to configure them from the code level. So first of all, let us have a look at the backend prefix parameter. So this is a prefix or a suffix, depending on which part you're looking at, which is defined in the parameter CML. So here you can see it. And this is a part which automatically added to all management console URLs in order to distinguish them from the storefront. So by default, it's /admin, and this is a configuration which you can use locally. But in the production, it has to be some kind of random string or random prefix in order to prevent easy access for the security reasons. So here we can see this is the front-end part. If I'll put here /admin, I will be able to see the management console and will be able to see all these parts. So this is where it comes from. This prefix is coming from the parameter CML file, which you have to fill during the application installation. Then we have a special option in order to distinguish storefront and the management console's URL. This is option called frontend. And here we can see a good example of usage of this option. If some controller or some routing resource or some route is marked with the option front-end true, as you can see here, it will be considered as a storefront part of the application, and there will be no /admin prefix in front of it. If some URL is considered as a backend part, there should be no front-end options, like for example here, and in this case, this part will be considered as a management console part. Pay attention that customer users that front-end part not have access to the backend part and vice versa. So technically, these are two separate scopes of route, and there are very, very few cases when they have to have access each to other. In order to work with them, application uses front-end expose routes extractor. So this is a PHP class you can find in code. So here you can see it, and what it's doing, it simply iterates over the route and checks whether this options is there or not, and just tells us whether we can use appropriate route on the storefront or not. Then we have next option called expose option. So this one is used for the GS routing part of the application. So or uses two routes, two routers. First router for the backend, standard Symfony router, and the second part is for the front end. This is the GS part of the application, and or uses FOSS GS routing bundle. And this expose options is needed to tell application that this route can be and will be used on the front-end part, on the JavaScript part. So just in case, by default, Oro adds or exposes all default routes like Oro blah blah blah, so starting with Oro. But if you want to expose additional routes, for example, audio customizations, and use them on the in JavaScript on the storefront, you have to add here, you have to add an option called expose true and use it. So this is not an Oro invention. We're using here the standard option from the FOSS GS routing bundle. So if you're interested in how it works, you can always go and check FOSS GS routing bundle and see how it organized there. And in order to dump these routes, there is a command called bin console FOSS GS routing dump command. Again, this is not Oro command. This is a command coming from the FOSS GS routing bundle, but it used to dump all the GS routes by the application, including the storefront GS routes. Then we have question of the security. So as we have already discussed, front-end part and storefront and management consoles are two different parts of the application. And here we're using a separate separate type of user called customer user, which uses its own provider. And we're using a different firewall. So in our platform, everything started with /, which were considered as a standard application and standard backend user from the user bundle. However, in OroCommerce, this behavior is changed, and by default, everything starts with a / considered as a storefront part, and the management console is recognized only using that /admin prefix. So in other words, if you are putting /admin in your URL, application will think that this is a backend part and backend user. And if you are not going to have this prefix in URL, application will think that it's a storefront part and a customer user. Talking about implementation, here you can check the documentation about how it organized on the application level. We are using standard security from Symfony, so we're not reinventing the wheel here. And just in case, if you want to see how firewalls are organized, you can always check the documentation of Symfony. And this is a place in Oro where all this behavior is defined. Here we can see a special provider called frontend, which with its own customer user, with the custom pattern. In our case, it's basically everything. We have a separate identity. We have a different from login and logout configuration, remember me, and most important of this all, we are allowing access for anonymous customer users. So unlike the management console or standard Oro platform where you must be logged in order to use some features of the application. Here we are allowing access for the anonymous users as well. We are calling them guests, and the guests may have different features depending on the application configuration. Now let us continue and let us check what are the websites on the in the OroCommerce. So the main purpose of websites is to provide access to the storefront, and every time customer is logged in on the storefront, it in fact log in some of the websites in the storefront. Websites may have different content. For example, you have website for the United States, you have website for the Europe, and they have different content. They may have different product selection and different catalogs, including the visibility. So for example, some product may be visible only for the specific country or the specific group of users. Websites may and usually have different pricing, which may be distinguished based on the geography, based on the customer group, based on some kind of special agreements or contracts signed between the application and the customer, and there are many other use cases which can be handled here. Website uses groups of the customers, which are called customer groups. And the group of customers is very useful if you want, for example, to distinguish or split your customers into multiple customer groups or segments. And for example, you can sell same products both for B2B and B2C customers, but using different prices, different discounts, and totally different behavior using the same application. Customer user is, we have already discussed, is a special type of user used to the storefront, and by default, it's also associated with the website it was logged in. And the websites may have different menus. Just in case, you may always check the documentation and see how to customize a menu for a specific website. But before that, let us see what are websites and how to manage them. So here, we have a special menu called System Websites. Pay attention that by default, this menu is available only in the Enterprise Edition because Community Edition supports only one website, while Enterprise Edition supports multiple websites. And here we can see the multiple websites we have available on this specific application. The main or the most interesting part of this that we may handle multiple websites, for example, with multiple domain names or multiple different cookie configuration using the same management console. So for example, here we have the default websites, European websites, website for Canada, for Argentina, for Australia, and for US. And all these websites may have different content, different URLs, different pricing, and pretty much everything is different. Website itself is pretty simple. Here we have some kind of standard information about the website. Here we have very simple CRUD. And in this case, we can specify only the name and the price list with the minor configuration for the customers and customer roles. But the main part is hidden here under the configuration section. So this is a place where you can customize quite a lot of options related to the websites. And we are going to check these options one by one in scope of our trainings. Some options can be defined on the system configurations level. Some options can be defined on the website level. And again, it depends on the features, depends on the options. But in our case, let us have a look at the routing section, which is basically the everything, which is the mostly the most commonly used, which contains most commonly used options for the websites. Here we have the URL. Here we have the secure URL in case you are not using different HTTP and HTTPS. We have canonical URL types, which allows you either to use standard system URL types or use direct URLs. It depends on your configuration. So basically, direct URLs is just another way of saying human readable URLs. We may also use them as a secure or insecure. Depends on your customization. For example, you may want to have an access to the human readable URLs with the HTTP or without it. Here we have selection for the web catalog, and here we have navigation for the menu, again, if we want to customize it. And we have several website matchers we're going to check a little bit later. Now pay attention, this is my default website and has URL OroCommerce ee.local. Let us open some other website. For example, here we have a European website. Again, we can check configuration here, and here we have a little bit different domain name. Here we have EU or Commerce EU local. Let us try to open this website on the storefront. And as you can see, we also see this website, but pay attention, it looks a little bit different, mostly because I have manually set a different themes here. So let me open the standard website or default website. So you can see how it looks like. And here we have a different website, and it has different themes. It has different content. For example, here we have a localization selector, and here we don't have it. We may have a different menus here. For example, you may have different menus per website, or globally, you may have a different content, different pricing. We're going to check all these features in the scope of this training. Yeah, as I have mentioned, the enterprise versions provide you the ability to have multiple websites, while Community Edition may have only one website. If you're using the Community Edition, basically your system configuration is your website configuration, so they're merged together. And all the options you can set on the website level, you can also set in the system configuration. And fallback here is work from the global system configuration to the website configuration. It means that configuration options in the website configurations are more important than the configuration options in the system configuration. But just in case, you can always go there and check all these options and specify them for all websites. In order to do that, you have to open system configuration. So here you have it. And for example, open the routing sections we have already seen. And here we have the default URL. You may set the default canonical type, whether you want to not put URL, web catalogs, and so on. There are several options which are available only for system configurations options, and we are going to see them a little bit later when we're going to talk about the website matchers. So yeah, as I have mentioned, we have additional configuration level for the website where we can override global configurations, and there we have additional options, for example, to provide multiple localizations, to provide multiple currencies, to set the custom theme and do some other things. So let us try to do some of these things, and let us try to configure one of our websites. I'm going to use my European website, EU OroCommerce EE local, and in order to customize behavior of only these websites without affecting other websites, I have to open this window. I have to click on the configure button for my website, European website, and this is a place where we can do something about our website. So let us start from the localization switcher. This is the element we can see here. For example, right now it contains 3 options: English from United Kingdom, French, and German. So we have supporting 3 languages here. And what we can do, we can customize a list of these options. So here we can see these 3 websites. What I'm going to, for example, I'm going to remove French website or the French localization and save this one here. If I will go to the storefront, now we can see only 2 options. The French has disappeared, but in the same time, my default website was not affected because it's a totally different website and different scope of the configuration. In a similar way, I can customize, for example, the currencies which are used on the website. So let me try to do it. So for example, here I have on US dollar, but for example, because it's European website, I obviously want to have not only dollar, but also euro and British pound, of course. And now we can go to the storefront and check it again. So here now we have currency switcher. We have 3 different currencies. And again, if I will return to the default website, None of this change affected this website. So here we not have neither localization switcher nor the currency switcher. And the custom theme. So you have already seen this. We have like nice blue theme, unlike the standard gray theme here. You can change these options. And if we'll go to the system configuration here, we can try to find this theme and we can set this theme here. As you can see here, we have custom theme. If I want to make it look exactly the same, I can use default theme. And now it looks exactly the same as the default website, but pay attention, we still have all the options related to the localizations and currencies we have set previously, because we changed only the visual representation without changing the functionality. I'm going to return to the custom theme just because it will be easier for me and you to distinguish these two websites. And so here you see it. Then let us continue. So let us see how application can match websites. So you probably have already mentioned that here I'm using two different domain names, OroCommerce local and EU OroCommerce local. But in general, there are more ways to distinguish the way how application find the appropriate website. So the first and the most obvious one is the URL based. So here we have it. The next one is the cookie based, where you as a developer or you as a technical specialist can associate some specific cookie name. For example, this one is called website, and associate value per website. And this cookie will be used to understand where the website is, which website is currently used. For example, if you have some kind of nice localization switcher which works on the JavaScript, you may use cookie for that. And in this case, your cookie will be used as a parameter. And this parameter will be used by the OroCommerce application to understand which website has to be used or has to be rendered for this specific customer. And finally, we have environment variable based URLs. So this is the most simple one. So if you have some environment variable set on the web server level, application will simply try to match it. And if it matches, it will use this website based on the value of this environment variable. Let us have a look at how this thing can be configured. So now we're going to see some difference between the configuration on the system level and on the global level. So here we have the routing section. And here we have the website matcher configuration. So this website matcher configuration is used to understand which matchers are enabled. We have URL matcher, we have cookie-based matcher, we have environment variable matcher. They have sort order, so you may make some of them more important than the other, or vice versa. And as a developer, you may also add your own matchers. So if you, for example, not happy with neither of those, you may define your own matcher and, for example, define website based on the IP address or based on the geography. So depending on the IP address customer came from, you can automatically associate the appropriate website and render this information from this website for this customer. Also pay attention to the cookie name variable here. So this is a name of the variable, of the cookie name variable, which can be used to distinguish websites each from other. And now we can go to the website level configuration. For example, let's pick the European website. And here we have cookie value configuration. So for example, I may have cookie value equals Europe. It means that if somebody will set this cookie values equals Europe here, in this case, application will think this is a current website, and European website will be used to actually will be rendered to a customer instead of the default website. And here we have environment variable name and environment variable value, which can be set per website. So application can tell that this is the exact website which was specified, for example, in the web server configuration, and that will be it. Now, a couple of the best practices for the usage of the storefront and websites in the OroCommerce. So the first one I have already mentioned, never use /admin as a default back office prefix, because it's very easy to guess, and it's very easy to understand that somebody is using OroCommerce application, not some other. We also have a recommendation to protect it with additional authentication, for example, www authentication. Next one, you should add new website for the new content or configuration or scope of data, but not for the new language or the currency. Yes, sometimes it may be the case that you want to have language-based websites, but in most cases, the language switcher or localization switcher is enough. And in this case, you have just to implement multiple localizations and set the data frame, and that will be it. You do not need multiple websites here. However, you may need a multiple websites for different geographic regions, for example, for the Europe, for example, for the Asia, for the America, and so on. In this case, yes, it may make sense, especially if they have totally different, different data and different configuration. You may consider a website as an additional scope of data or group of data, and these groups, each group has to have its own website. So, for example, if you are selling, for example, wine, and you know for sure that everybody in Europe is buying the same wine and using the same products, you may have only one website. But if, for example, if you're selling different wine in France, different wine in Germany, and they have different prices and they have different customer groups, in this case, it may make sense to add a separate websites for the Germany and for the France. And one more thing here, websites often look different. For example, here we are even out of the box, we have two different themes. And for these two themes, the customer, and by looking at these two themes, customer may think that these are totally different websites. And if you are somehow want to inform a customer that these are in fact two parts of the same application, you have to do it explicitly, because by default customers consider different websites as different applications. And in this case, you may either use the same logo or have some kind of website switcher, or inform customer about the fact that these are the same applications. Okay, and that is all about our first topic about the storefront and websites. And I already see the first question in the chat. Will you also go through CRM aspects of Oro? Partially, but not in scope of these webinars, because Oro CRM is a totally different application. Yes, I'm going to tell you a bit about the connection between them. For example, you'll be able to see additional workflows associated to the CRM parts. We are going to see that customers are inspected as part of the Oro CRM customers. For example, customers can be associated to the accounts of the Oro CRM, and so on and so on. But most of the features we're going to check will be related to the OroCommerce only. Are users shared across the websites? Users shared across the organizations, but not the websites. So what does it mean? Each website is associated to the organization, an organization like an additional level which used between the global configuration and the website configuration. It means that you may have multiple websites inside the same organizations, and you may have many organizations too. And by default, customer users are associated to the organization level. So if you want to share your users between the websites, you please make sure that your customer users are associated to the same organization. Actually, there is a common customizations in order either to allow to users log into the different websites or not allow. Again, it really depends on the requirements for each specific application. Can US website user log into the EU website? Yes, but only if they belong to the same organization. So basically it's the same question. If US user logs into EU, will they see their card in for, again, depends on the security options, but by default, if you are configuring it like that, yes, they will. How to manage SSL certificates in Oro hosted production? SSL certificates are managed by the Oro Cloud. So if you have enterprise license and you have Oro application hosted on the Oro cloud, you may simply send them certificates, and they will be installed for the appropriate application. So certificates are not handled by the OroCommerce application, but rather by the infrastructure on the Oro cloud. Does internationalization handle right to left language? I'm not ready to answer this question, unfortunately, for now. Feel free to submit it to the Slack chat and check it there. Can you have different price lists for different currencies? Yes, you can, but you may also have multiple price with different currencies in the same price list. We're going to check this topic in details when we are going to see the pricing topics. But short answer, yes. Okay, guys, looks like we have no other questions for now. So thank you very much. Let's have a small break and we'll continue in 15 minutes. Okay, guys, let us continue. I hope you hear me well. Before we'll continue with the next topic, let me answer the questions from the chat and from the Q&A chat too. Regarding the marketplace module, how does it work on the backend with multiple merchants, with different customers, price lists, etc.? So it really depends on how you can organize that. So for example, you may add an organization for each merchant and then grant him access to the management consoles. And in this case, each organization or each merchant will have its own scope of products, price lists, and so on. You may do the same using the business units. So the business units and organizations are concept from the Oro platform trainings. So you can create a business unit for each merchant, give proper rights, and either share or do not share the data with the other merchants. And for the customers and price lists, they may either have the same list of the customers. For example, if you're using the one organization, they may have different list of the customers. You're using different organizations and different websites. Same for the price lists. You may either reuse them or not reuse them. It depends on the security permissions you will set for your management console roles. Are the products shared among the websites? If they shouldn't be, they should be the websites in different orgs. So by default, products are shared between the all websites in the same organization. However, you may change that, and you may hide product for the specific website if you want to. We are going to check this in scope of the product topic. Then we are going to talk about the product visibilities, and there you will be able to see that we have several ways to customize that. But in this case, the most suitable is the website level visibility. Just want to make sure if I take a recording of the video will be available. Yes, recordings will be available later. Can you provide the Git repository that contains the source code for the Oro package? So all these packages are available in the GitHub under the Oro link, Oro Inc. namespace. So here you can see all this repository separately, but most of the time you will need to install the application, for example, OroCommerce application, this one, and they will be added as a dependencies based on the composer JSON file. So here you can see the commerce CRM package, which will be automatically downloaded together with the application when you're going to install them. How different mockup for EU website is implemented. So here we have a different theme there, and we're going to check how themes are organized tomorrow in scope of the out and themes topic. Okay, so I think these are all questions from the previous topic. Let us continue and let us start the next topic. The next topic is called customer entities. So in scope of this topic, we're going to see what kind of customer information we have on the Oro side, how the customers are organized, what's the difference between customers and customer users, how to handle customer roles, and how it will be visible on the storefront, and which features we have on the management console part and which features we have on the storefront part. So these are the 5 main entities we're going to talk about in scope of this topic, and let us start from the customers. So customer in OroCommerce represents a company or division who buys something using the OroCommerce storefront. OroCommerce is mostly B2B concentrated, B2B specific application. So the main unit of customers actually main is a customer or company or small division or subdivision who actually going to buy something. Customers have a hierarchy. So you may have parent-child relation. For example, you may have division with 3 subdivisions, or vice versa. You may have, for example, standard division, and you may have some kind of division that unites multiple subdivisions. Customers may see aggregated information from all its children. Again, it depends on the security, but you may organize it like that. For example, the parent customer will be able to see all the orders submitted by the child customers. And there are many use cases when this can be used. For example, you can use it in reports, you can use it in expression rules, you can use it in the products, orders, and all the standard entities you have at the storefront. Customers have associated addresses. By default, we have 2 types of addresses. These are billing addresses and shipping addresses. We have standard Google Map integration, and the addresses, like customers, actually can be managed both on the backend and on the storefront part of the application. You may use customers as a sales, or customers may have a sales representative associated to them. For example, if you have multiple companies to work with, each company may have an associated sales representatives, which have to be modified about the things, about the actions of a customer. For example, when order is submitted or when customer has some problems during the checkout. So in this case, you may use this relation in order to notify us as a representative about something which is happening with customer. For example, here we have notification, notify Simon sales representative of the customer, now case in case of the request for quote. Customers also have import and export. So this is a standard or import export. So if you want to, you can import and export customers using the CSV files. Let us see how these customers work on the management console part, and a little bit later we can see how it works on the storefront part. So let us start from the management console part. Here is our management console. And here in the customer menu, we can see the customers menu item. And these are our customers we have in the demo data out of the box. As you can see, customer has a name, it has associated group, it has parent customer. This is what I have mentioned about parent-child relation. We have an internal rating, we have associated payment term, we may have a tax code, and here is a part of the CRM part. It may belong to some account of the CRM. Let us have a look at what we have inside the customer. So here we have a little bit more information. We can see here where it was created, updated, what customer group it belongs to. We can see multiple addresses which can be associated with this customer, subsidiaries. So basically these are child customers, customer users. We're going to check them a little bit later, and price lists associated to this customer. So basically the prices he will be able to see, list of requests for quote, list of orders, list of quotes, list of shopping lists, list of opportunities, and additional activity and additional information in case you have them. Most of the standard information of the customer, so general information section, can be edited from the management console too. So here you can see standard information, here you can see addresses. You can also edit price list, and you can also add the payment terms here if you want to. Now talking about the storefront, before I will show some customer information on the storefront, I have to log in first. I will just pick one of the users. We're going to see in details login form. For now, I'll just want to only to show you how it looks like on the storefront part. In the storefront part, we have just a bit of information about the customer. We may find it only when we're going to see here the company A. And this is the actually field from the customer user, but one way or another, we can see which customer it belongs to. Next thing called customer groups. So these are customer groups. They often used to represent the segment, customer segments. But in general, both customer groups or customer segment, no matter how you call them, are used to group customers in some kind of logical clusters or divisions. And these groups later can be used to customize many things in OroCommerce. You may use to customize the product visibility, the payments, the pricing, the taxation, and many other things we're going to see in scope of this topic. So there are in general 3 main levels which most of the features can be customized on. These are website, customer group, and customer. So customer is more important than the customer group is more important than the website. So these 3 levels use many features to give you multiple scopes of the data, multiple scope of the feature. So for example, you can make product visible only for the customer, for the whole customer group, or for the website. Yeah, as I have mentioned, they represents different logical groups, can be sales groups. For example, it can be the wholesaler customer or maybe a specific customer based on the geography. It can be pricing groups, for example, with discount or without discount. It can be actual customer segment based, for example, on some kind of preferences and so on. And the customer group is the field of the customer, which means that customer belongs to the customer group. Pay attention that the customer belongs to only one customer group and he cannot belong to many. Now let's have a look what are customer groups and how they can be handled on the application. Customer groups can be handled only in the management console part of the application. So in Storefront, there is no way to do it. Here we can see customer groups menu item, and these are our customers we have out of the box. Here we have all customers, non-ticketed customers, partners, and wholesaler customers. So let us check at the all customers, for example. Here we can see the name, we can see the payment term, we can see the price list information, and again payment, and the list of the customers associated with this customer group. Please pay attention to one special customer group called non-authenticated visitors. This customer groups is used to identify guest customers or guest customers users. And by default, if somebody is not logged into the application, application thinks that this person or this authenticated user or guest belongs to the non-authenticated customer groups. This can be, for example, important if you want to show different prices for the non-authenticated visitors and, for example, all other customers. In this case, you may simply associate price list with this non-authenticated visitors customer group. Next entity, the important one, is the customer user. So the customer user is the actual person, or actually the person who can act on behalf of the company, or who can be a separate entrepreneur. But one day or the other, the customer user has to be assigned to a customer, and there is no way how customer user can be without a customer. And even if you are doing registration of the customer user, application usually automatically creates a customer for this customer user. Customer user is similar to the management console user, may have a limited set of permissions. depends on their functions in the customer organizations. And again, like in the management console, these permissions are regulated using the customer roles. By default, customer user email is unique, so you have to make sure that customers have unique emails, and they can be either case sensitive or case insensitive. And basically, we strongly recommend to use case insensitive emails, because then in case customer put a typo, make a typo in his email, he won't be able to log in when he will put his email without a typo. And again, like for customers, customer users also have import and export features enabled. Like customers users also have addresses, billing, shipping addresses, Google Map, and can be also managed both on the management console and the storefront. And again, like customers users may have associated sales representative, which may help customer user to buy something, organize the prices, maybe handle some kind of issues in case customer users face any, and so on. And again, similar use case, we may notify customer users associated sales representative in case of the request for quote. This is a real use case where sales representative can be used. Let's have a look how customer users looks from the management consoles and from the storefront. So management console first. Here we have grid called customer users. We see here a list of our customers, and we immediately see which customer they belong to. First name, last name, email, which is unique. Whether they are enabled, whether they are confirmed. We're going to see what is confirmed when we're going to check customer registration, but in general, it means that customer user allowed to log in, and whether it is guests. We have a use case when guests can log into the application, for example, during the guest checkout, during the guest to use guest shopping lists. And this case application creates customer users called anonymous something, which marked as guest in order to actually do something, for example, to buy something. Let's have a look at the customer user inside. So here we have first name, last name, middle name, name, suffix, name, prefix, birthday, email, company belongs to, the roles. Again, like backend user, like management console users, storefront users also have the list of roles. Whether it's guest or not, the default websites it associated to, list of addresses, and again, requests for quotes, orders, quotes, consents, shopping lists, activities, additional information, and we also have auth applications. So this is an information that can be associated to the customer user, and we are going to see most of these blocks later on in scope of other topics. If you want to edit customer user, you can do it here. You can change association to a customer, you can change sales representative, you can change first name, last name, birthday, password. You may also add multiple addresses. So you may have many billing addresses, many shipping addresses, but only one of them can be default billing and default shipping. And you may also grant some roles to this specific customer user. Now this was the backend part. Now let's go to the storefront part. So here we have the profile. This is a place where a customer user can edit his own information. Here we have the simplified version of the form we have seen before, but we have here just limited number of fields. First name, last name, name, suffix, birthday. List of the conditions, in our case, they call data protections. So we have special terms and conditions, and we may agree or disagree with some of them. And this is a place where a customer user can also change his password. Then we have the address book. The address book is the place where a customer can edit either his own addresses or addresses which belong to the company. So here we have all company addresses. These are customer addresses. And here we have all my addresses, which is customer user addresses. Again, we don't have integration currently with the Google Maps, but in general it can be set. And again, addresses can be edited from this page. So we can edit pretty much the same thing which we can edit from the management consoles. We can also edit types if we need to. And the same can be done for the customer users addresses too. They are pretty much identical. Then we have a list of the users. So depending on the permissions, users may have an a right to create another users. In this case, it makes sense if, for example, you have a front-end administrator, some kind of person you trust, and the person who can create multiple users from the storefront instead of giving this person rights to create users from the management consoles. The creation form is identical, so you may create a user, specify all the information, assign passwords, and assign roles. So this is how one customer user create another customer users from the storefront in case this customer user has appropriate permissions to do that. Now the important part, the customer user registration. So this is the place where, which is very commonly customized, and in OroCommerce we have multiple options which help you to do something about it and help to customize it out of the box. First, customer user registration can be totally disabled. It means that there will be no way to create customer users from the storefront. It means that customer users have to be imported from the management console or created manually from the management console part, which is a common use case in B2B. You may require confirmation, but you may disable it too. So basically it means that there will be no additional email sent to the customer users to confirm that it's actually the real user, not some kind of bot. And behavior of the registration form and registration process is also configurable. So these are the options, but instead of looking at them here, let's have a look at them on the application level. So let's open some website. Pay attention that all these options, or most of these options, can be set per website. So for example, you may allow registration on one website and disallow registration on another website. For example, you have B2B and B2C, and you are allowing to register B2C users, but you are not allowing to register for B2B users. Okay, so what do we have here? Here we have default customer owner. So this is an association with the backend user. So in other words, is the owner of this customer user on the management console side. If you're not sure who should be, just keep it default administrator, and then administrator will be able to handle it properly. Whether registration is allowed, so whether you want to not allow users to register for this website, whether confirmation is required, so whether the application has to send email in order to confirm that the user is actually the real person or not the bot, whether we're showing registration link on the storefront, whether we're requiring company name. So this thing that I have mentioned. So every time application or every time customer user is registered, application automatically creates a customer for them. And if we have this checkbox, there will be a new field called company on the storefront. But if there will be such field, application will automatically create a customer from the first name and last name of the customer users. Whether we need to show registration instructions, in fact, with the instructions themselves, and we also have additional options for the front-end API, whether we are allowing or not allowing for customer to generate the API key. So let's try and play a little bit with this registration form. Let me sign out first. So here we have registration. This one is, yeah, this is the default website. Great. So for example, here we have company name, and if we are imitating the B2C scenario, we may hide the registration link. And in this case, if registration link is hidden, we can open this page again. Let me save it. Default website. So here we have I have hidden registration link. So now here we do not have a registration link, we see only sign in. And if I will, for example, disable require company name, here you can see that the company field has disappeared. That means that we can enter only the first name and the last name, and that will be it. There are also other options which you can customize here, and this you may also, as a developer, you may also add additional fields to this form, and you may handle it any way you like. There is a common customization, for example, to add a file upload, for example, to confirm user who he is, for example, to upload the contract according to which he has to have access to this application. And we also have here terms and conditions, which user may or may not agree during the registration in order to grant him access there. What's next? Then we have customer user roles. Customer user roles are entity which can be associated to the customer user, and this entity is used to grant permissions for the specific customer users, but only on the storefront. Pay attention that management console roles and customer user roles are two totally different set of roles. And this one, we're talking about the storefront roles only. Again, like in the management console part, customer user may have multiple roles. We have two roles, or we have three roles out of the box, and we're going to see them a little bit later. Customer user can be managed, customer user roles can be managed both from the management console and from the storefront. And there are several flags which can be used in order to distinguish them. So we have flags for the self-managed role. It means that we can edit or cannot edit it, whether it get public or system, whether it's visible or not, and whether it's predefined or customizable. It means that every time customer creates a new role from the storefront, it will be automatically associated to a specific customer. So let us see how it works, and let us try to do something there. First, the management console part. Here we have the customer user grid. We have three roles: administrator, buyer, and authenticated visitors. So let's have a look at them. For example, administrator has pretty much all the possible permissions which administrator may have. We have, again, like in the management console roles, we have here the entity-based permissions and the binary permissions. We also have permissions for the workflows, for the storefront workflows, and we can see the list of the customer users associated with this role. Pay attention to this special role called non-authenticated visitor. This role is used as a default role in order to understand which permissions default or not logged in user has to have out of the box. So you may have change permissions for non-authenticated visitor as well. Please also pay attention, you may specify this option per website. So you can, for example, open a website. And here you can specify which is the guest role, so role considered as guest, and which role will be associated automatically to the automatically registered customer users. So they have to have some role. In this case, well, we're going to have buyer role by default, which of course can be changed later. Now talking about the storefront, let me log in again. Here I'm going to log in as a storefront administrator, which means I have pretty much all the possible permissions there. And in the account section, there is a menu item called roles. And this is a place where customer users can manage the roles and even create a new ones. So there are roles with type predefined. It means that these are default roles which cannot be changed, but instead of that, application will duplicate them. So for example, if I will edit some role, I see that the message that predefined roles cannot be edited directly, and the application is going to create a copy. I may associate this role to a specific company. In our case, let's make it company A, and let's call it buyer for company A. Save. And here is my roles, it's saved. Here we have list of the permissions, again, both entity and binary. So this form is pretty much identical to the form we have seen on the management console. And if we return to the list of the roles, here we can see that this role has type customizable. It means that it was customized specifically for this user. And if we will return to the management consoles here, customer user roles, we will see these roles and we will see that it has type customizable, and we can see which customer it belongs to or associated with. And in fact, we can also edit it here, but by doing that, by showing here customer, application administrator can immediately see which roles belong to which customer and what permissions were customized for the specific customer. Then we have entity called customer visitor. Customer visitor is a special entity which is technically not managed from the management console, but it created for every anonymous users which logged into the application. So it represents anonymous users and information it has. Customer visitor stores the latest visit date and the session ID associated to this customer visitor. This is very important because then based on this session ID, we may process some actions or do some additional, grant user some additional functionality, for example, create shopping lists or for example, finish checkout to submit the order as a guest. And this session ID will be used to identify who is who and who actually doing that. Customer visitor has relation to the shopping list, so it's used for the guest shopping lists feature if it's enabled. It's also useful for the guest checkout, obviously, because this is the continuation of the guest shopping list feature. And customer visitor also has a relation to the customer user. So every time customer visitor is starting to doing something which requires a customer user, application will create this customer user with a guest flag. So we have seen this flag already in the management console, and let me show it to you again. So here we have the two customer users, anonymous 1, anonymous 2, with the flag guest equals yes, or equals means this flag was checked. These are the two guest customer users, which are not real users yet, but later they can be converted to real users if they were decided to log in or register. And all the entities, for example, shopping list and checkout, will be associated to them automatically. Now talking about the storefront security. Security on the storefront is very similar to the management console part, but it's a little bit simplified. It has less levels. It does not have global organization level. We're working on the global levels. And if we want to set some kind of permissions for the storefront security, we have to use a special group name called commerce. So in other words, if you as a developer do not specify any group name, the application will think this is the permission for the management console. If you will specify group name commerce, application will think this is a permission for the storefront part. Again, like the management console roles, here we also have entity and action-based permissions. We have seen this one already. Storefront security defined by the current roles. So the permission of each logged in users are merged. So for example, if you have two roles, the actual permissions will be intersection of those two roles. And as I have already mentioned, anonymous users have their own customer use as a role and customer group, because application has to be able to identify which features has to be available for the user at the storefront. So let's have a look at these storefront permissions. For example, let's have a look at some kind of binary permissions or action permissions, and I'm going to have a look at the checkout bundle. So here is the checkout bundle. The permission specified in the same file as for the management console users. This one. Give me a second. I think it's not in this bundle. Let's pick something else. Yeah, this is ACL's file, and this is the file where we can allow or disallow some permissions. And for example, here we have group name commerce, and we have a permission called quick add form. It means that user will be or will not be able to use quick add form at the storefront. And by specifying here group name, application will automatically recognize this option as a storefront option or storefront action, and will render it in the list of the actions in the customer user roles. Let's have a look. So let's pick some role, for example, administrator, and let's search for this permission, and here we have it, quick order form. This is a permission which was added only to the management, only to the storefront roles or customer user roles. And here you may allow or disallow quick order form for a specific customer user role. Talking about the storefront ownership, again, it's pretty much identical to what we have seen for the management console ownership. And here we have special field to store front-end owner. Let me remind you that in the management console, owner defines visibility of the associated entities. And here we have exactly the same thing. So for example, we may specify appropriate access levels. For example, when the customer user will be to see only his own orders or orders of all customers in his customer, or order of all customer users in his customer and all the child customers. For example, if this customer user has to approve orders created by other users. So config option can be set on the entity level, exactly like the management console roles. So here we have front-end, here we have backend owner configuration, and here we have front-end owner configuration. We may have several types of the front-end owner. We may have front-end user, or we may have the customer. So entity can be owned either by the customer user or by the customer. And yeah, we may have multiple, we may set multiple permissions on the role. So if we will return to the role and try to edit it, we may use 4 levels on the entity level permissions. None means nothing, no action here, no permission here. User means the customer can work only with the entities associated directly to this customer, for example, only with his own orders. Department, it means that this customer user can work with the entities associated to the customer. So for him and all customer users in his main customer. And corporate, it means that customer user can work with all the entities associated to his customer and all child customers of his customer. So here we may see that it's pretty much identical to the back office or management console permissions, with the exception of 2 highest levels, global organization, but everything else is exactly the same. User is user, so but here we have management console users, here we have customer user. Department is the business unit, and corporate is the hierarchy of the departments, or hierarchy of the customers, in order to observe not only in order to observe not only the main customer, but also all the associated or child customers. Couple of best practices about working with the customers and customer users. Customers and customers groups can be used to represent many types of hierarchical relations, and not only the standard relation. They may be used to represent statuses, that may be used to represent projects, that may be used to represent scope of work, that can be used to represent pretty much any custom behavior or any custom scoping, which can be, which will require either custom prices or custom visibilities or custom discounts and so on. So for example, you may have one customer user and associate it to different customers based on the requirements. For example, if this customer user has to work in many countries, you may associate them to the different customers. In this case, this customer user will be able to see different prices, different products, and so on. Yeah, obviously the customer hierarchy, their main purpose is to represent departments and sub-departments, and this is the out-of-the-box behavior which you can use without any problems. And that is it. It's all about the customers I want to tell you here. And let us check the questions. Just want to understand the reason for allowing one customer to be part only in one group. That may limit segmentation possibilities. Yes, you are correct. This is in fact indeed limits the in fact limits the segmentation possibilities, but reason is simple, because if you will have multiple customers group, application cannot 100% be sure about the permissions or about the features which has to be associated to this customer. So for example, you want to grant somebody permission to see or do not see some product. And imagine that this customer belongs to two groups. One group can see it, another group cannot see it. So who should win? Which customer group win? The same can be done for the price list. The same can be done for the discount. The same can be done for the web catalog. So all the features which belong to which uses that customer group relation. That's the main purpose. That's the main purpose why it was done like that. If you still want to use some segments, you can use the Oro platform feature called segmentation. Here you can see reports and segments. You can create multiple segments for your customers and then use them separately. Just want to understand the reason of following one. Okay. And can one customer users belong to more than one group? No. So here we have many to one in all the levels. So many customer users in one customer, many customers in one customer group. Do new customer user roles have access to shipping? If you're asking about the shipping addresses, yes, they have. If you're asking about the starting the checkout and actually do something about the checkout, yes, they may have. But shipping itself not handled in scope of the Oro, at least out of the box. So if there are no customization, then the general answer is no. The shipping is handled on the management console part only, and customer users not have access to the shipping. The same for the payment methods. So customer user can specify the payment method, but cannot actually. But for example, if some payment requires some authentication authorization from the administrator has to do it first. Where is the mail configuration setting to ensure case sensitivity? It's stored in the system configuration. Let me show you that. Here we have user settings, and here we have case insensitive emails. So this is the emails, I think, for the management console. Let me check for the customer users. No, I think that was the option. Okay, let me check the chat. From a user or user account perspective, if a customer assigns a sales rep or more to his account, does this consume 2 or more licenses? If you're asking about the Oro license, it's better if you will ask the question in either in chat or send this question directly to the Oro via the Oro Inc.com contact us form, because I'm not the proper person to answer this question. So you need to check it. But in general, if you're thinking about organizing some kind of middle store scenario like B2B to C, you can discuss it with our sales team, and they will answer a question and find a suitable license for you. How addresses and other data shared between sub-customers of company A? Very good questions. It's handled by the permissions. So by default, at least here, user Amanda Cole has administrator permissions. So this user can see not only his own customer addresses, but also customer addresses of all child customers. So for example, 2 of those addresses are in fact belong to the other companies. For example, here we have company A division, and this one is from the company A West division. But if you do not like this behavior, you can change it, and you can grant access only to their own users and only to their own customer addresses. This behavior we have for the role called buyer, and I think the Brenda Sunburn had the buyer role. Yeah, buyer. So let me log in as a different customer user from the same customer. Let me go to the account, open the address book, and yeah, as you can see, this person does not have permission to see addresses from the child companies, child customers, and this person can see only his own customer address and his own customer user address. Is default Symfony bundle used to manage customers and roles? We have Oro customer bundle, which is a Symfony bundle, but it uses the standard Symfony security features, but we're using our own user provider, our own authentication algorithms there, authentication, and our own firewall. So we are using the Symfony default behavior, but we are adding our own customer user entity. How storefront permission levels example and depend mode can be used. So for example, we're going to check in scope of the checkout, but think about the following scenario. Imagine that there is an, like for example, standard users in the customer, and there is some kind of supervisor which has to observe everything which is going on in this customer. And for example, this person also has to approve orders or approve checkouts performed by these customers. In this case, we can grant standard user permissions to manage only their own orders, only their own checkouts, and they will not be able to see orders or checkouts from other users, while the supervisor can see all the orders from all the customers and all the checkout from all the customers, and for example, allow or disallow some actions, so for example, approve or not approve some orders submitted by the regular customers. In Oro, out of the box and demo data, we have two permissions, or sorry, two roles, administrator and buyer, and they have very different permissions. For example, let us check the administrator first. So here on the action level, we have all the permissions, and on the buyer level, we see that this user cannot approve orders that exceeds the allowable amount. So I think this answers this question. Okay, one more question in Q&A chat. I understand that there is only one customer to one customer group. How do you group customers from other purposes? For example, would like to group customers with shipping visibilities. They are a tag that we can use. So customer can indeed belong to only one customer group. If you want to use some tags, you can use a built-in feature to do that. Let me check if we have it enabled for the customers. I do not think so, but in general, you may enable tags for the customers, and then you can group them using the segments. So for example, here we have the segments. You can create a new segment for your customer. We need to specify here the customer, we need to specify the segment type. Let's use dynamic. And let's use some kind of expression in order to group them. What do we have? For example, internal rating, right? And I want to specify only the customers with rating 5 or 5. Customers with 5 or 5 rating. Let's pick some fields here, like for example, name. Let's save it. And we have here, we have a segment called customers with 5 or 5 rating, and we have only one customer here. So this is how you can group your customers and how you can create a customer segments. In fact, they even called segments. And here you can see a list of all the segments, and here is our customer with 5 or 5 rating. Okay, I do not see any other questions in the Q&A chat, and looks like we have no questions in the regular chat. In this case, guys, thank you very much for that training, and let me remind you that tomorrow we're going to check the layouts and themes topic. This will be 2 hours topic. It will be mostly technical. So there we're going to see what are the layouts, what are layouts updates, how they work together, how to organize structure on the page, how to inject your block in different pages. And we're also going to have a small exercise and see an example of the simple layout update customization. So guys, thank you very much and have a good day.